Okay, welcome back, guys. So we're into the home stretch here with our study of Mockingbird. We should be able to wrap things up in one or two more videos. Just have 2 chapters left to discuss. So we left off with the legal problem of who killed Bob Ewell and the revealing of Boo Radley, where Scout finally sees Boo Radley face to face, and interestingly enough, recognizes him, sees him. Okay, so we begin with Atticus here, correcting Scout. "Mr. Arthur, honey," said Atticus, gently correcting me. "Jean Louise, this is Mr. Arthur Radley. I believe he already knows you." So notice that Atticus is still practicing his moral principle and teaching Scout. Don't call him by a wrong name. Okay, he's teaching the true name. So no childish ghosts, right? Which is what the Halloween scene was foreshadowing, not just the fact that it was Halloween, but they were warned multiple times, watch out for ghosts when you're walking in the forest. And then who actually saves them? A ghost hero. Okay, an outcast hero. Boo Radley. Well, now he's not Boo, he's Mr. Arthur. Okay, so just pointing that out. Okay, this is about seeing reality correctly. Okay, this is about real life and our view of reality. So how do we see reality, right? Okay. Now, Atticus also knows that he already knows you. So Boo Radley has been watching the children grow up their entire lives. They're his neighbors. He's been protecting them. He's been having fun, giving them gifts, laughing. Remember when he was laughing while they were doing their play acting, right? And so actually, he's very loving toward the children. And remember, he carved the 2 dolls that look just like Jem and Scout. Okay, so he has an intimate knowledge of them. We're going to see that a little bit more in this chapter when he sees Jem. If Atticus could blandly introduce me to Boo Radley at a time like this, well, that was Atticus. Boo saw me run instinctively to the bed where Jem was sleeping, for the same shy smile crept across his face. Hot with embarrassment, I tried to cover up by covering Jem up. "Aha, don't touch him," Atticus said. Mr. Tate sat looking intently at Boo through his horn-rimmed glasses. He was about to speak when Dr. Reynolds came down the hall. All right, we don't need to cover what Dr. Reynolds said. Jem is fine. He's got a broken arm. He's going to recover. And the issue that Atticus is focusing on is Jem's age. Jem's not quite 13. No, he's already 13. I can't remember. Anyway, it'll come before county court. Okay, so Atticus is thinking of the legal problem of Jem in this killing. Okay, he's thinking, did Jem do this by accident? Kill Bob Ewell? Okay, who's the killer? And we can frame this section of chapters 30 and 31, okay? We talked before about Atticus's moral principle. This is Atticus's legal and moral dilemma or problem. Wondering if there's two M's in dilemma. Yeah, let's keep it. All right, so this actually is a huge thing at the end of the novel, because the entire story, Atticus has been teaching his children the moral principle of empathy, compassion, standing in someone else's shoes. Well, now he's got a problem. There's the whole legal issue. Jem was involved in this scenario, and if he's 13, he's more responsible for his actions than a 12-year-old in terms of the legal system at the time. So he's wondering, is this all going to come before the court? So remember, we have the failed case of Tom Robinson as the backdrop to this case. Here's a new case. Here's a new problem. But Atticus is fresh from remembering, well, the law did not save Tom Robinson, and then he got killed. So keep that in mind. What will Mr. Finch? Mr. Tate uncrossed his legs and leaned forward. Of course it was clear-cut self-defense, but I'll have to go to the office and hunt up Mr. Finch. Do you think Jem killed Bob Ewell? Do you think that? You heard what Scout said. There's no doubt about it. She and Jem got up and yanked him off her. He probably got hold of Ewell's knife somehow in the dark. We'll find out tomorrow. Mr. Finch, hold on, said Mr. Tate. Jem never stabbed Bob Ewell. Atticus was silent for a moment. He looked at Mr. Tate as if he appreciated what he said, but Atticus shook his head. Heck, it's mighty kind of you, and I know you're doing it from that good heart of yours, but don't start anything like that. Mr. Tate got up, went to the edge of the porch. He spat into the shrubbery, then thrust his hands into his hip pockets and faced Atticus. Like what? He said. I'm sorry if I spoke sharply, Heck, Atticus said simply, but nobody's hushing this up. I don't live that way. Nobody's going to hush anything up, Mr. Finch. Mr. Tate's voice was quiet, but his boots were planted so solidly on the porch floorboards it seemed that they grew there. A curious contest, the nature of which eluded me, was developing between my father and the sheriff. So notice Scout senses there's a conflict, there's some kind of problem, but it eluded her. She still doesn't understand these adult conversations fully. Okay, so she doesn't understand the implications of this conversation yet. Okay, so Scout is still somewhat innocent here, actually, if we think of her position. But we only have 2 chapters left, so we know she's got to reach maturity and break innocence somehow between now and the end. It was Atticus's turn to get up and go to the edge of the porch. He said, and spat dryly into the yard. He put his hands in his pockets and faced Mr. Tate. Heck, you haven't said it, but I know what you're thinking. Thank you for it. Jean Louise, he turned to me, you said Jem yanked Mr. Ewell off you? Yes, sir, that's what I thought. See there, Heck? Thank you from the bottom of my heart, but I don't want my boy starting out with something like this over his head. Best way to clear the air is to have it all out in the open. Let the county come and bring sandwiches. I don't want him growing up with a whisper about him. I don't want anybody saying, Jem Finch, his daddy paid a mint to get him out of that. Sooner we get this over with, the better. Okay, so what's the point of what Atticus is saying here? He wants to keep honesty, truth, and integrity. He doesn't want to lie about anything. No lying. Absolutely no lying. Even if it's going to cause problems in his family. But Scout is not totally sure because she was blocked by her, she was in this like ham costume. And so she couldn't even really see much from her Halloween costume that she was wearing. It's not a clear testimony, is the point. Mr. Finch, Mr. Tate said stolidly, Bob Ewell fell on his knife. He killed himself. Atticus walked to the corner of the porch. He looked at the wisteria vine. In his own way, I thought, each was as stubborn as the other. I wondered who would give in first. Atticus's stubbornness was quiet and rarely evident, but in some ways he was as set as the Cunninghams. Mr. Tate was unschooled and blunt, but it was equal to my father's. Heck, Atticus's back was turned. If this thing's hushed up, it'll be a simple denial to Jem of the way I tried to raise him. Notice that. He doesn't want to deny the morality that he raised his children with, to have integrity, to tell the truth. Sometimes I think I'm a total failure as a parent, but I'm all they've got. Before Jem looks at anyone else, he looks at me, and I've tried to live so I can look squarely back at him. If I connived at something like this, frankly, I couldn't meet his eye, and the day I can't do that, I'll know I've lost him. I don't want to lose him in Scout, because they're all I've got. So Atticus feels that if he lies, right, if he lied, he would be a hypocrite to his kids. And so he would lose his influence on them as a guide and an instructor. Okay, now Tate is going to maintain this story. Bob Ewell fell on his knife, and he's going to say he can prove it. And they debate about that. Okay? And the argument goes on. And Tate says, I'm not saying she made it up. I'm saying she was too scared to know exactly what happened. It was mighty dark out there. Black as ink. I had to take somebody mighty used to the dark to make a competent witness. I won't have it, Atticus said softly. God damn it, I'm not thinking of Jem. Mr. Tate's boot hit the floorboards so hard the lights in Miss Maudie's bedroom went on. Miss Stephanie Crawford's lights went on too. Atticus and Mr. Tate looked across the street, then at each other. They waited. When Mr. Tate spoke again, his voice was barely audible. Mr. Finch, I hate to fight you when you're like this. You've been under a strain tonight no man should ever have to go through. Why you ain't in bed from it, I don't know, but I do know that for once you haven't been able to put two and two together, and we've got to settle this tonight because tomorrow it'll be too late. Bob Ewell's got a kitchen knife in his craw. Mr. Tate added that Atticus wasn't going to stand there and maintain that any boy Jem's size with a busted arm had fight enough left in him to tackle and kill a grown man in the pitch dark. So Jem couldn't do it. His arm was broken. He's just a kid. He couldn't have been strong enough. So who did it? Well, obviously, Boo Radley, Arthur Radley, killed Bob Ewell. And now who is he thinking of? He's not thinking of Jem. He's thinking of Boo Radley. And that's going to be important. All right. I never heard it tell that it's against the law for a citizen to do his utmost to prevent a crime from being committed. Which is exactly what he did, Boo Radley. But maybe you'll say it's my duty to tell the town about it and not hush it up. Know what had happened then? All the ladies in Maycomb, including my wife, be knocking on his door bringing angel food cakes. To my way of thinking, Mr. Finch, taking the one man who's done you and this town a great service and dragging him with his shy ways into the limelight, to me, that's a sin. It's a sin, and I'm not about to have it on my head. If it was any other man, it'd be different, but not this man, Mr. Finch. So keep in mind the sin language when we come back to the next video.